sense and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul.
Hi, Zizaran here with yet another league starter for 327 Keepers of the Flame, and this is Boneshatter of Complex Trauma. This is a really solid hardcore SSF build, so obviously it'll work well for softcore as well. It is a good starter, and the fact that it is SSF viable means that you don't need to rely on the economy or trade crashing or anything like that, and you will be able to pull off this build no matter what. It is a super tried and tested build, and this is something that can do Ubers even on hardcore. But it is still more of a league starter. A lot of people use this build to start as your first build, make a bunch of divines on day one, invest into the build if you really like it, or if you see something pop up with the new bloodline ascendancies, pivot into something else with all the money you've made from having a strong starter. If you find our builds useful for league start, please consider subscribing and sharing the build. It helps us out a lot. You can also find this build on Maxroll for those that like written guides with super in-depth handholding and a little bit extra, so make sure you check that out. We put a lot of work into that as well. If the video guide doesn't help you enough, then you do have the written component with just tons of extra info. So as normal, we are using Path of Building for this, a third-party software that is pretty much mandatory for PoE 1. You really do want to use this. It's a really good calculator, and we make it very easy to follow. We do step-by-step on the skill tree, so you will know exactly where to put skill points as you're leveling. And here you can see as well, the ascendancies are also step-by-step. Now, the new bloodline ascendancies are being added this patch, and the way they work is they use the same points as your normal ascendancy points. So if you are on an ascendancy where you're maybe not needing something, like let's say you don't need Unrelenting, then you can take a bloodline ascendancy and put 2 points there. They seem to have, some of them can have more points, so when there's an ascendancy where you can drop to 2, that is a benefit. Now, for this build, we don't yet know if there is going to be a super good bloodline ascendancy. None of the ones that are out so far is particularly worth dropping any of these, and this is an ascendancy that already has quite good points. However, Unrelenting is quite droppable. You definitely get your fist mitigation capped already. And obviously the Unrelenting LA damage reduction is nice, but there might be a really crazy bloodline ascendancy that pops up for this. If that is the case, we will be updating the notes here and probably post something in the YouTube video. So again, this is what PoB looks like. We also have skills here. So you can see that you start out with Ground Slam, and then you can continue with Ground Slam, or you can do Spectral Throw. Both are fine. And then at level 12, you pivot to Sunder. But either way, you can see everything is in its separate skill set. Very easy to follow. You're not going to end up with superfluous support gems and things that you don't need. And it is a dream to level. Boneshatter just feels really good. And the complex trauma, the way that works is it's different than normal Boneshatter, where you want to stack a lot of trauma. Here you only want to stack 9. So the build at the moment is set up to fall off around 8 or 9 stacks. So that should be pretty easy. So we are using Boneshatter of Complex Trauma here, and the way that works, you get this from lab. You can get it in normal and cruel lab, so throw in a red gem there, but you're not going to be farming normal or cruel lab for it. In Merc lab, there is an option that turns this particular gem into a transfigured gem of its version. So then you would put in a Boneshatter gem specifically, and not just a red gem, and hoping that the 1 out of 3 is going to be the one you need. So farm Merc Lab for that, and Sunder is just so wonderful anyway, so you're not in a rush to change. We do have items as well, and I'll talk a bit about that in a sec, but another thing I do want to point out is that we have loadouts. So this basically syncs up a skill set, items, and a tree. So you can see that they're all synced together. So the early game, you have 2.3 million DPS, mid game 2.8, and with some juiced gear, you have 9.2 or 8.2 with more tank. So 9.2, that does include not even Awakened Gems, but quite a lot of good stuff here. So with Awakened Gems, you can obviously juice it a little bit more. So let's look a little bit at items. So early on, it's just rares. Comb Sign is nice, and this is surprisingly good. You will eventually be able to remove Comb Sign by using really good Vermilion rings, but it's crazy good value because how strong endurance charges are. mid-game as well. And for early access, using Faustus to gamble, I think it's Faustus, but either way, the gambler guy that you gamble access on, really, really good. I would like to draw your attention to PoE and let's look at, for example, two-handed axes. Now, keep an eye out for when you're hitting like a good level axe while leveling. So let's say that you were level 53 and about to buy axes, you're going to be getting noble axes. If you wait 2 more levels, you're going to be getting abyssal axes, etc. So pay attention to that while leveling and when you're gambling. Leveling to like level 68 or 67-ish in the blood aqueducts and then gambling is really good because you can get Val axes, despot axes, and void axes at 68. They're all very useful. Any of these are going to get you a really good axe, to be honest. And another thing to pay attention to as well, and why PoEDB is so useful, is here you can see the breakpoint. So it's 65. Like, there's a very big breakpoint here. Like, if you were gambling at 64, 63, and you weren't getting item level 65, you can't get tier 2 physical. These are obviously very, very good. And then here at 60 for cruel. So 65 is like an early breakpoint you would want to hit. And remember, like, if you hit cruel on a rare axe, you can craft flat physical, or if you hit tempered on a rare axe, you can craft percentage physical. So it is very easy to get a good starter axe, and that's why these are so popular. RUSHES super popular as well. Like, there's a lot of slam and fizz builds like this that are going to be starters. The reason for that is, I think the last time I played, I was in tier 16 12 hours or 10 hours after launch. And that just gives you such a leg up on the economy. So even if it's not necessarily the build that you want to play, it lets you get to the build you want to play that much faster. Now, the actual best in slot axe is the Sundering axe, and that is because we have 20% damage over time multiplier for bleeding, and this is a bleed build. Home sign as well, another nice thing about it, they're not like... They're super extremely common, so they're very easy to Val. So in the endgame here, you can see that we have like fizz damage global or all reds. You can get immune to poison, immune to ignite. Really, really nice implicits. Now, a bit of a tricky thing for this build if you are doing SSF, and the only thing that you're going to be like struggling to get is the Resatas coil. They are pretty farmable, especially with Asian orbs. They're very easy to buy and trade. They're not super rare, but they can be annoying to get. On Resatas coil, what you want is a low on the first stat and high on the second stat. So you see where it says less minimum physical attack damage, you want that one to be as low as possible. And then more physical attack damage, you want that to be as high as possible. This is particularly good for bleed builds because we're just looking for the largest bleed. So it doesn't matter if it sometimes hits for less, it's not going to affect our damage. Tincture and the way they work, they're sort of like a active buff that you choose when to use. So you would be using this whenever you're killing like a really tanky rare, a exile, or the map boss, or obviously keeping it up as much as possible when you're actually doing any form of boss. They're a very large portion of your damage. Light of Meaning with fist damage, these are also quite nice. You can see over here, it'll affect and give a lot of extra fist damage. In the notes as well, we do have a lot of stuff here for like things that are easy to mess up, map mods to avoid, some tips for leveling, and again, we will be adding something about Bloodline Ascendancy if there is one that is good. So this is my video from last season. I was doing this myself, and it is basically just a quick 12-minute video on how to really easily make a 1000 PDPS axe yourself. I think I made 3 or 4 over 1000 and even started like corrupting them, and they're exceptionally easy. Like, they're not super cheap. This isn't like a 30 chaos project, but for the insane power you get out of it, like, they are very deterministic and very reliable to make. So that's a really nice thing to have as an option for the build. So I'm just showing in the video how to make them, so you have that as a tool as well. Bandits for the build is you kill them all, and then Major God is Lunaris, Minor God is Garkon, and honestly, this should be a very, very solid starter. Juggernaut is just really nice and tanky. Another thing I do want to talk about for the build, Divine Shield. This is really nice as long as you have any energy shield, and that's because you are always preventing so much physical damage from your own trauma. So you're basically just getting giga regen. This is going to help with just a lot of things. Even if you have like 50 energy shield, this is useful. That's why early on, a crystal belt actually ends up being really good. It just gives you a large amount of recovery. So most things should be covered in the notes, like for example, dealing with mana issues. That's pretty much the build. I hope you guys have a great time on League Start with this. Thank you so much for watching. Sub if you liked the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.